Hi, do you know what percentage of people think they manage their time well? 10%. So if you feel like you're in the other 90%, I want to reassure you that you're not alone. Yet if you notice yourself saying things like, I don't have enough time, I wish I had more time, I wish there were more hours in the day, or, I work really hard and I just feel like I'm just never really caught up. That leaves you feeling, rushed and frenzied, unnecessarily stressed out. I want you to know it doesn't have to be that way. So I'm really excited that you've joined me so that I can share a couple of the tools that I know will have you being more productive, investing your time wisely on the things that matter most to you, yet also for you to do it in a way that doesn't have you feeling stressed out or rushed. Basically, tools that will help you change your relationship with time so that you will be able to accomplish everything that you have on your plate and also actually have more time, more than enough time for you to actually fill yourself up in the other ways in your life that maybe you haven't been, maybe in your relationships, that sort of thing. Sound good? Great. So let's get started. First thing I want you to do is pay attention to your language. If you recognize yourself in any of the things I said before, like I wish I had more time, or, I work really hard, I know what I want to get done in life, but I just feel never caught up. I want you to pay attention to that. And after you're done listening to this video, I want you to jot down, on the left side of a piece of paper, those statements that you notice yourself telling yourself. And on the right side of the paper, I want you to create the positive opposite. Things like, I have enough time. I have it within me to figure out how to get all of these things done and have time left over for fun in life. Positive statements like that. And in addition to you beginning to apply the tools that I'm going to share with you, I want you to look at the right side of that list on a regular basis and just remind yourself on a regular basis about your new relationship with time that reflects that, you're going to get more done than ever, and you're going to feel just easier doing it. You're actually going to be able to enjoy it a lot more. So let me give you the first tool that I have, which is what I'm going to call your time tracker. What I want you to do is for the next 3 days, you're going to get a blank piece of paper. If you're doing it on your laptop, you can do that too. I want you to write down how you spend every hour and every chunk of an hour throughout your day. So you're going to include everything. You're going to include eating and sleeping and goofing off time and time spent and work, everything you're going to do. And you're going to do that for the next 3 days. And you're going to do it without judgment. Because what I notice some people will do is they'll say, well, it should only take me this amount of time, but it takes me this. So I'm going to write down what it should take me. No. Honesty is the best thing for you here. Knowledge is power in life, right? Because what you want to do in terms of shifting where you invest your time really efficiently and wisely, you want to know what you do. So you're going to do this. This is a judgment-free zone. You're going to be really as accurate and very specific as you can be, so that you know the things that work really well, and you can look at the things that aren't working so well and know exactly where do I want to change that in my life. So you're going to be doing that over the next 3 days. The next tool I'm going to be offering to you, you could start at any time. But if you start it now, I want to make sure that you do the 3 days of recording everything that you're doing, because you really want to have an accurate picture. 1 day isn't enough. So you don't have to wait till after those 3 days are up to start with tool number 2. But make sure that you continue and do at least 3 days. You can do more than that. And if you're starting this on a weekend, which is kind of not your typical routine, you may want to make sure that you do at least 3 days of when your busy time is, and you could have the fourth be a weekend day or one of your sort of down days. Great. The first tool I'm going to share with you is the art of importance. Investing your time in what's important to you. So in order to be able to do that, you need to know specifically what are the things in my life that are really important to me, not just time fillers, not just sort of the things that you kind of have to do in life that, they're part of it, but they don't really tap into you making the big stuff happen. So in order to do that, I want you to jot down. You can get started on this now as you're listening to me, but you're probably going to want to really spend some quality time after you're done listening to this video. And I want you to write down, for right now in your life, 10 or 15 specific tasks that if you could make happen would really make a difference in your life. And I want you to include, if you have 15 that are all in the area of work, or all in the area of family, or all in the area of something like your physical well-being, like your exercise or food. I don't want you to have like 15 really specific things around your physical well-being. I want you to have a wide array so that you can know that as you begin to work on these things, the way I'm going to help you do, that it really reflects you having that rich balance in life. So if you have several of them with work, that's fine, but not all of them, so that you can really say, wow, this is me looking at, let's say, my relationship with my kids. Am I spending time with them, and what's the quality of that time? But am I also making sure I pay attention to things like finances? That may be, a task that you have going on right now in your life that will make a big difference. So there you go. So I want you to list the 10 to 15 tasks in your life that if you were working on right now, if you had the time, if you made the time right now, would make a big difference. And then what you're going to do is prioritize. So first of all, when we talk about the important tasks in your life, I know you and I have many more than 10 to 15. But what this tool is designed to help you get in touch with is what are the most important. Because a big tendency of people, when they look at their time management and look to have it shift and be really life management, because effective time management is really life management. They notice that where they put their focus and decide to invest their time, when they get really clear on what's most important, that helps them a lot. So that's why I want these 10 to 15 to be the things that really would make a difference in your life. So now let's take a look at prioritizing those. What you do here is, you've probably heard of this before, when you're rank ordering the urgency of something. I'm going to have you do A, B, and C. Take a look at those 10 to 15 items and assign an A, B, or C to each of them. Now, if you've got any D's, which some people do, I want to encourage you to not have D's, because what D's are in life usually is those 10 to 15 things you can put into an A, B, or C. If we have D's in our life, they're typically one of two things. A D is something that really doesn't matter, and so there we are, we have our D, and because we're busy doing A, B, and C each day, the D's get carried over for weeks, months, and years because they're really not that important. But it costs us to carry them over because we do a few things. We either say, well, wow, what's wrong with me that I'm not getting it done? Or they just drain us of energy because we're actually attending to actually forwarding that D every week. That takes energy. And when we're looking at investing time wisely, we're very thoughtful about how we spend our time. So with that D, it could be that it's really not that important, in which case let's just let it go and move on. Or a D is really not a D. A D is something that actually would be, if you were able to make that happen, would make a difference in your life, would make you feel really good about yourself, but that it would make a difference in your life, that it really matters. But the reason it's been a D is because of something like fear, you're a procrastinator, or anxiety. What if I try it and I can't get it done? So a D isn't really a D at all. So I want you to take a hard look if you have any D's and ask yourself those two questions. One, is it not that important I can let it go? Or two, is it something that I really want to take a look at making this a C or a B? And why has it not been something that ever has a chance of making it up to an A? Because I'm afraid. And so that's a conversation about taking a look at what is stopping you from working on that goal. So now you've got your A, B's, and C's. What's really cool, and you'll be able to see this as you move through it, that A's are going to get done, right? No matter what. Why is a C a C? Why even not have everything as an A if it's really important? If these 10 to 15 things are all you said to have important things, well, it's because we can't do everything we need to do in our life every day, right? It gives us such a freeing ability when we prioritize accurately like this to know that this is what I need to do today in order to make it all happen. This generates the more than enough time experience. Because what will happen is A's will eventually get accomplished, and they'll leave room for a B to get moved up to an a C to get moved up to a B, and you'll notice that your life will change. And so maybe that C gets let go because you're up to other important stuff. And so the C falls off. You see how that works? You'll be doing something like your A that finally got done, or it didn't take as much time as you thought it would that day. So you can say, wow, I really worked on A. Wow, let's go for the B's. Let's go for the C's. Great. See how that works? So you're flexible. They can change. Also, if something happens where we're looking at, time with family. So your relationships, am I spending enough time with my family? That's something that happens. But then, on a particular day, there are other things that are A's because there's real urgency and they're really important. But something happens where, so let's say for that day, spending time with your kids was a B because you knew you were going to definitely make it an A later in the week, but the other thing was an A. But then there's an emergency that happens. Obviously, I'm giving you kind of an extreme example, but obviously an emergency happens. That relationship with your kids where they really need you to be there, then that gets moved up to an A. Does that make sense? Cool. So you'll see how they move among categories because you are constantly paying attention to keep your focus on what's most important for that day. What I want you to do now is you've got your prioritizing and you've got your 10 to 15 items. Now what we're going to do is look at planning this, which means scheduling it. Because if you really want to make these things happen, you absolutely have to schedule it into your life because that's when it becomes real. Yeah, that's one of my favorite Tony Robbins sayings. When you're really serious about something, once you schedule it, then it's real. So now that you're going to be doing this, you can start to assign into that blank calendar that you have. I want you to start to plan your goals, which will be your dreams, which will lead to you having a really productive life. You're actually getting to enjoy it because there's more than enough time. You're going to start to lay out how you're going to get all those things done, factoring in A, B, and C. But then the other part of it is when you look to schedule it, how do we do that? What do we use in terms of scheduling? We do two things. The quality of the task, which is sort of what's the nature of this thing so that I break it down into really manageable steps, but also being incredibly realistic. We look at the nature of the task, but what do we always say? How long is that going to take me? So this is huge for you. I notice the people who have that feeling that they're really, really busy all day, but they just never feel caught up. They're not realistic about how much time something is going to take. I think there's something sort of magical thinking that we have of, if we can only sort of beat the clock and I'm able to sort of get this done in less time than is reasonable, I'm some kind of a hero or great and everything. Well, how's that working for you, right? If you see that something routinely takes longer, then rather than have you say, oh boy, why is it taking me so long? I want you to be very realistic with all of your tasks and say, this is really, if I were caring for myself, loving myself and others around me, because my peace of mind affects others around me, I'm going to look to give it all of the time that it really requires. So that's something that I can really say to you, pay close attention to that and be very realistic. Be kind to yourself around this one. Give it enough time. So that then you're saying, hey, yeah, now I understand why it's Friday, the end of my work week, and I feel like I got it all done. Wow, yeah, it took me that one task. It took me 3 days to do it because I broke it into manageable chunks, yet I feel really good about it. And now I know that I set myself up to win. Rather than expecting I was going to have it all done on Monday, that first chunk, and I wonder why Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all this other stuff got pushed out of the way. So I just feel like not accomplished around anything, right? No, that's the new way. You give everything the time that it deserves. Then the next thing I want to mention to you is in that schedule, if it's all blocked, you got your eating, your sleeping, you got your meal prep, you got your spending time with your spouse, you've got everything that will allow you to have those 10 to 15 things happen. If your schedule is full, now I want you to take a second look at it, because we need to take some of those things out this next week, however long you've made your schedule for. I encourage you, the first time you do this, to have it be do a week, so you can really see what your new life with amazing time management can look like. So we got to take some of those off, because we forgot about curveballs. We forgot about life happening to us, which it will, which is not only things taking even longer than the realistic amount, things like, the power went out, or that person didn't show up for the meeting, yet we still have to have that meeting. So now I got to find time for it, right? That happens all the time. That's where the not enough time comes in, because life happens to us, right? So what I want you to do is you got to clear some room. And depending on sort of your general pace of life, I'd say, look to carve out several hours in this week. And this is the great news about it. Life is going to happen to you most weeks. And so when it happens, think of how you'll feel when you know it's okay. There's room in the schedule. There's room in the plan for this, because I'm managing my time wisely. Now think about the day or the week when there really weren't many curveballs. No unexpected things that sort of occurred to throw a wrench in the works. What are you going to do with that time? You will have it, and you will get to do with it whatever you want. How will that feel? Because your plan creates that opportunity for you. You see how that works? Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So that's a really important one. Extra time. Now the last sort of tip I'm going to put under our first tool of the tracker and the schedule is deadlines are your friend. Now, for those of you who balk a little bit, feel like, oh, no, I don't like that. That feels limiting. That feels harsh. I want you to consider thinking differently, because I know what will open up for you if you do. So the reason, in your life, there are a lot of things that you may not have made happen yet, and you may not have had a range within which to complete them that sort of set you up to let it go by the wayside, right? So the beauty about deadlines is that they let you know exactly where you stand. So that when you say, look, this is something that I could probably let go for a year or so, but no, it's going to mean that if I don't do that thing, I'm not going to have room for other new amazing stuff that's going to come up. So deadlines are your friend. And one of the quotations that I loved when I was thinking about doing this video for you was, do you know the Abe Lincoln quotation around this? I'm not going to get it exactly right, but something along the line, like if you give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'll use the first 4 to sharpen the axe. Yeah, does that sound familiar? I know that one. I was just laughed and knew I had to put it in my blog this week. I'm sharing it with you now because I was like, oh my gosh, that is so me. So what does that really tell us? That we'll fit to the press, right? So if something's really, really important to us, have it be realistic, but put sort of a frame around it. Because otherwise, what do you really do? Right? I'm not going to say I'm not chopping down a tree, but that's 6 hours. If I give my 6 hours, I'm going to take the 6 hours. When what if I got really focused and said I'm going to do it in 3, what do I do with that other 3 hours? Whatever I wish. Did that thing still get done at a level of excellence that you want in your life? Yeah. How did it only take 3 hours? Because you made it so. That's that magic of where we talk about people who are excellent time managers. So they're excellent life managers too. That they say, I have more than enough time, and they're up to big stuff because they've carved out the equivalent of that 3 hours. And think of what you could do with that extra 3 hours, knowing that you still did an amazing job at chopping down that tree. Yeah. So that brings me to sort of the last point that I want to make, which is the idea, I don't know how you've heard it said, but when people talk about this, where the people that have actually put it into practice, they say things like, what was neat was it sort of felt like my time expanded, almost like there were more than 24 hours in the day. And we know that that can't be true. So my take on that is that what happens for you as you begin to live in a way that you know that you actually, because you're getting the things done, because you paid attention like you did in your tracker, because you've scheduled it and you planned it in a way that reflects what you really, really want to make happen in your life right now, they'll notice that, at least this is how I see it, is that when you're doing the things that you want, when you're making them happen, and you're calmer because you're not stressed out, you're not being all frenzied around it, that means that you actually are not taking extra energy being stressed out, but also because a schedule is one of the most freeing things you can do for yourself in your life, there's also not that added energy of like every day taking time and energy to figure out what you're going to do that day because it's already laid out. So I think where that sort of, wow, I feel like time expanded is really just because your hours have you feel calmer and have you feel, when you're busy, and you'll do this when if you decide to not just listen to this, not just take notes, but actually put this into practice in your life, which I really hope you will, because I know the difference it'll make for you. When you do that, you'll find that you'll say, let's say on your schedule, I'm just going to imagine I know what one of you is going to say, and that's that you have this project that you're working on, and you know that you could get it 10% done, and you've blown it off for a year because it just seemed overwhelming. Let's say that you decide that you're going to do that next Wednesday, and you actually do that, and it took you 5 hours, and you had plenty of time in your day because you did just that. That was your only A for the day, and the rest of the day you spent taking care of your family, your friends, and your body. So that next Wednesday, when you made that happen, and you spent that 5 hours to get 10% of a huge project done, that's huge. In that moment, during those 5 hours, because you had everything broken down into manageable chunks where you knew exactly what you needed to do, in that moment, how do you think you're going to be? What are you going to be focused on? If you know that all I have to do is this thing here, if I focus on these tasks, everything I want in my life is going to happen. When you do that in that 5 hours, it's about being really present, which really frees you up that all you got to do is that thing for work, because there's no thought around you of, oh my gosh, but what about that other thing I need to make happen? Or, oh, what about that other area of my life, the other people in my life? That chatter that really drains us. No, all you're doing is in the moment saying, all I got to do is what I'm doing right now. I don't have to think about anything that I'm going to do tomorrow, next week, next year. All I have to do is be here right now, and everything I want is going to happen. Imagine doing that, not just with that 5 hour chunk, with that project that's going to make a difference for work, because it's going to get you the raise or the promotion, or just have you be back in touch with being really accomplished. Think about what it would be like if you had that in every area of your life. You're going through your life where all you have to do is be here in this moment, doing this, saying, this is all I need to be doing right now. Everything else is going to happen, because I've learned to invest my time so wisely that I trust I will make it so. That's where that sort of, oh my gosh, I have this freeness, this calmness that comes from being a really, really effective time/life manager. That is within your power. You got to do the work, but if you were to start by doing what I outlined in this video, I know it'll make a really big difference. So that for you to look at the difference between how you were feeling when you first started listening to this video to feeling like, wow, this is something that I'm living the life that I want every day. And all it requires is me doing some organizing, doing some scheduling. It's well within my grasp. I know it is. So have fun with it. And the beauty of it, oh, I knew there was one more thing. I could feel myself like, I don't want to say goodbye yet. There was one more thing that happens for me sometimes, which is why the videos go a little bit long. This is the coolest thing. What happens when there's sort of that expansion of time is you have the experience where we didn't talk a lot about making sure that you plan, you schedule in leisure time, pleasure time. But this is another really cool thing happens. You might be saying, what do you mean? Like the scheduling of pleasure leisure and joy. That, like, those things are contradictory, but I want you to know that they're really not. So let's say that now that you've created this schedule, this plan that has you get everything done, and I said there was going to be more than enough time for fun as well. Think about it this way. There are people I know, I don't know if you relate to this, but they sort of get everything done that they're have tos. And then they have all this time, many, many hours, maybe a weekend, and they waste it. They waste it because they weren't intentional about how they use their free time. So if you're going to go to all the energy and the effort of scheduling this life for you, I want you to enjoy the time that you have free. So the way to do that is it's not drudgery, it's not work. It's when you think about the free time that you've now created for yourself. I want you to think about how you spend it, because there are two things, and you know, I mean, I know because I used to do it and now I don't do it anymore, that I used to think, wow, what happened with those 12 hours that I created for myself? Well, because I kind of wasted them. I did stuff I sort of passively enjoyed, didn't really enjoy, but I passively spent my free time. And I don't want you to do that. So if you notice that wow, I had all this, you said that there was going to be all this time for fun, you do want to be thoughtful about how you spend it, so that it's not vegetative, passive, sort of draining. There's a certain amount of maybe entertainment watching is good, but when it's past the point where you're feeling sort of drained, I want you to be really thoughtful about how you spend your free time, because if you're going to take the time to be a really good life manager, you get to actually feel really filled up during your leisure time. So take note of that when you have your 6 or 12 hours. Be thoughtful about it. That doesn't mean you don't get to goof off, you don't get to daydream, but be thoughtful about it. Say, look, this is my time I created for me, for my family, my friends. How am I spending it? How am I spending it? That doesn't have me say, I feel like I had those 12 hours over the weekend and I wasted it. I don't feel like full up. What's going on with that? So just be thoughtful about that. And it's really fun. I mean, think about this. If your homework is that, oh wow, I have to figure out what fills me up with my free time. I have this free time now. I have to figure out what brings me joy. Like that's homework we all want to have, right? Yeah. So best wishes with this. I want you to really, really do it. Don't just listen to it, but really do it. It'll make a big difference. Be well.